appears we are live.
Okay. It's now 7 p.m. I hereby call the June 12th, 2024 meeting of the Frostburg Planning Commission to order. Begin our meeting with a roll call of members present.
Adam Ritchie.
Eric Stevens.
Conrad Best, Chairman.
Karen Crow.
Jeff Snyder.
Ray Race.
We have a quorum. As we begin, I would ask that anyone presenting business before the commission or individuals who want to comment on business before the commission or other concerns, please come forward to the podium. At the appropriate time, state your name and address for the record. Each meeting is recorded, so please speak loudly and clearly. All right, next item on our agenda is the minutes of the May 24th Planning Commission meeting. You each have a copy of those.
Conrad.
Yes.
In reading through it, recommend the only revision made is for the discussion on the cannabis dispensary. Brian Alderton did mention that he was here representing both he and Denny Delaney. I know Denny did not speak, but he did indicate that he was representing the two of them. So I just thought that should clarify the record.
All right.
Denny was in the audience too.
Any other comments? Do I have a motion to approve the minutes with the corrections as noted?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the minutes of the Planning Commission meeting for May 8th. I get the wrong date on that.
You're it.
With the corrections that were noted. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay? Opposed? Abstentions? I'm sorry, I did not mean to vote nay there, I meant. Okay, motion carries. Next item is comments from citizens from the floor. Are you here to make comments, or are you here for one of the presentations?
I'm actually here on the discussion on 25 cents.
Okay, all right, fine, thank you. Okay, project presentations. Do we have any?
None this month.
Okay. All right, we are now ready for the discussion on the 25 Centennial Street project.
Mr. Sean Miller came and met with Bethany and myself maybe about a month ago. He was looking to construct a garage on the lot that he owns. That would be 157 First Street. It is the empty lot, as you can see on your handout. He would be unable to construct this garage on his other lot that he owns directly across the street at 25 Centennial Street. And based on zoning requirements, the garage that he is proposing to build on 157 would not be allowed based on an accessory structure not being allowed to precede a primary structure on the lot. So what we have for you as far as discussion would be the proposal of merging lots across the public right-of-way. So I had researched this, looked into state law, county law, and also our subdivision and land development requirements. And there was nothing that I found that would prohibit doing such a thing. In looking at other areas of the country, it seems to be split. Some municipalities allow it, some do not. So we want to bring this before the Planning Commission to get your thoughts and see if that is something that you feel would be feasible of merging the two lots, because once they would be merged, then it would be considered one tax parcel, and the garage would no longer precede the primary structure of the house.
So you're asking our opinion here on consolidating all of this property as bound by First Street and Centennial Street with the lot on 25 Centennial, is that?
Yeah, the 25 Centennial, yes, that lot, and then the 157 lot across the street.
The 22, the one on Centennial looks like a big lot. Am I on the wrong one?
It does go pretty down.
Okay.
There's no building behind you there. That is all one lot.
From a surveyor standpoint, usually when you see lots that go across the street like that, they existed prior to the creation of the lots themselves, or to the roads themselves. And at that time, the dedication were ran to the center of the road. That's not the case with our Frostburg subdivisions. Those clearly dedicated as public space. So the lots are not contiguous. And I think if you actually have the attorney look at it, they'll need to be found to be contiguous in the state of Maryland to merge. I really don't think that's a planning commission, because you're asking us about law, not necessarily about the planning intent of it, unless you want our blessing for just the intent of having a garage on a single parcel. In that case, it's strictly prohibited.
No, it wouldn't, yeah, the intent would be to get your opinion or guidance, essentially, on whether it would be possible to merge them across the public right-of-way.
Another little side note here is that is not going to be a stick-built garage, it's a drop-on shed, 28 by 32.
I wonder if you could consider it a tiny home. Like,
Well,
put a little apartment above and that would be the primary
A
structure.
little backstory here might help in the understanding of, I purchased this piece of land directly across from our home approximately 4 years ago. As you can see in that picture that you just had up there, it was owned by Jeremy and Ashley Rice.
Right.
Jeremy and Ashley Rice lived at 22. These people own this property. As you can see, there's a building on that property. That building was there within the last 10 years. There's also a retaining wall there beside it.
There was a house on that lot at
There
one
was
point.
3 houses on it at one time.
What is now empty.
What is now 157, yes. They tore it down, tore those homes down. Put a lot here for a basketball court, parking area, and a building. Same as I'm wanting to do within the last 10 years. Also had a retaining wall over here, was not built properly, which I've since tore down, rebuilt. J.Ho got her, come out and looked at it, we got the proper permitting for it. So in my theory is, when we're sitting here on our porch, we're like, this is a wonderful piece of land. I would love to have a building up there for storage, because there's one there now. So whenever he sold me this building, he takes his drop-on building away and leaves this where it was. He takes it. I buy this piece of land. I rebuild the wall properly, and I want to put a building right back there where it was, as you can see in that picture. It's a drop-on building. It's not a stick-built building. There's no foundation. It's on, I've already rebuilt the land, I've graded the area properly, and I think we've got the setbacks and everything within the spec that we talked about. That's where I'm at. That's why I bought this piece of land. I live here, I operate a business out of here, commercial graphics and signage. I've been a business owner and a property owner in Frostburg since 1998. That was my theory when I bought this. I'm doing nothing different than what was here.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to ask. How did,
Ashley and Jeremy had this property and had this here. I'm here,
Yeah.
I'm gonna do the same thing.
So the difference, the reason that we're bringing this to you, footprint of the building is changing. If the footprint was staying exactly the same, we could consider that an existing nonconformity. But because the footprint is expanding, that's where we're running into this issue. And we've met with Sean a couple times, and we kind of toyed around with the possibility of adding a dwelling unit to the structure to make it compliant. But whenever you add a dwelling unit, you have to have water, you have to have electricity, you have to have sewer. And that's very costly for, the project that Mr. Miller is proposing. So, we're trying to explore any avenue we can to bring this to.
Unique situation.
Yeah, it's a unique situation, so
yeah,
that's why
and
we're
I'm
bringing it
just
to
wondering,
you.
how did the Rice, was it Rice? How did they get a building on there? I know they tore the buildings down.
They did tear the buildings down.
Yeah.
Did they tear the houses down before the garage?
No,
It was
they
after.
tore the property all down and put that all up there after the house was built.
Yeah.
Okay.
There was no structure there, same as it is now. My thing is, so we're talking about this building. So to be in compliance, I put a bathroom in. That's what I gotta do to be compliant. What difference does it make? I gotta spend that money to be compliant? It really doesn't make any sense. The building looks the same, it's on the same footprint. So I'm just spending X dollars to appease that. You get what I'm saying? Nothing changes. Same footprint, same everything. I just gotta put a bathroom in it where I can walk 50 yards to my house. And the problem is, it is probably about double the size where the building was there. I will say that. It's 20 by 32. I don't know exactly what size that was. I would say there was no permitting done on that. And there was no permitting done on the wall, which I went through and did properly. And that's why we're here today, because I'm trying to do it the proper way this time, which wasn't done before.
Couldn't there be an application for an exception in this case?
I was saying
We
special
could do an
exception.
application for a variance through the Board of Zoning Appeals. That would be the only other alternative.
I think that would be more appropriate than trying to create a juncture between the two properties. Yeah, I have no problem making a
Yeah, I have no problem with
recommendation.
what he wants to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I don't either. As a matter of fact, if you brought it forth and said they're gonna go to the Board of Zoning Appeals, I'll make that recommendation.
Okay,
But the way you presented this, I don't think that's the way we should take it.
okay.
Merging your lots
Yeah, it's not good practice and
across
one-
public
Right.
right
that's
away.
the thing, it's because it's across the public right of way.
We just wanted to explore every
Yeah.
avenue and,
That's why I wanted to say a little backstory.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Make a little more sense of
yep.
how we got here.
And I agree with Ray. I mean,
Yeah.
when the question came, if you would be willing to put a bathroom, how you're running water and sewer, you're gonna probably run electric anyways, but running the sewer, if that was the case, if it was tap fees and water line fees, I mean, we do have where we can do infill development and waive those still, correct?
Yes.
So, I mean, if that was the case, we have a procedure for waiving the tap fees, just throwing that out there as a thought process.
I mean, if it comes down to it, that's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah, because I know those can be prohibitive, I mean,
Whatever, whatever we gotta do.
but I think with Ray, I think that's probably the best solution to this problem, is just go ahead and request for a variance.
Request for a variance.
And use the historical, what was there, and
use just tonight's meeting as his initial meeting, looking for
As
our
request.
approval to go to the zoning appeals board.
I'd make the suggestion that the applicant request that we do a recommendation to POSA. That's you. So,
Okay, so is he able to request that this evening instead of this being a discussion item? We can just make it a project presentation. I mean, we've already given you all the facts and shown you the data we
Not gonna
have.
change anything.
it's not gonna change anything from our end, 'cause we're just making a recommendation and the findings of fact.
Okay,
So then it's still proposed, you still have to go through the advertisement, it's one extra
Right.
step, but I think that keeps everything legal and above board.
yep.
And saves him the time of coming back to us
Right,
before he
that's
can go to
ridiculous
the
when they come back
planning
to us,
commission.
Yep, okay. So we will explore that infill development option to see if that will be feasible here and if the property is within that district. If not, then we will ask for a motion and a second this evening to make that favorable recommendation to the Board of Zoning Appeals. So either way, we'll have a path forward. We have two paths forward.
Yes. You wanna make the
All right, everybody heard that discussion. Anybody
I'll
want
make the motion.
to make the motion? Okay, it's been moved. Is there a second? Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you for your
Yeah,
time,
good
sir.
luck.
And we'll be in touch later, between now and Friday, to let you guys know.
You're welcome to stay for the next item, but it's gonna be quite a discussion, I think. Okay, Bethany, I see you have here something about the planning and administrative business and communications received planning intern.
Yes, we have a planning intern this summer. His name is Dakota Whitaker. He's a master's student at Towson, and he wants to pursue a career in planning, so he'll be with us all summer. He wasn't able to be here tonight, but he will be at our future meetings. So I just wanted to let you know that we have someone new on the team.
Okay, very good.
And then the comprehensive plan update, if you don't mind me just going right into that.
Right, go ahead.
We have not yet had our kickoff meeting. Our contract is signed. We are officially in an agreement with the consultant, but our kickoff meeting will be in the next week or two. So that's where we're at with that process.
So the dates that were in all of that before, have any of those changed, or are we still,
The dates that were in the RFP,
right,
they should be on track.
okay.
Yep.
All right, next
What
one
does
here.
that involve, the kickoff? Are we invited to?
So the kickoff is more for staff and the consultant, just to kind of establish what do we need to do very first, who's on our steering committee, things like
Who
that.
they'll be working with?
Yes, and then it'll be kind of a delegation of the initial tasks.
Who is on the steering committee?
We have a list of 12 to 15 names. It's not officially formed yet. We had a preliminary meeting with the consultant. It was like a pre-kickoff, and he told us that we needed to finalize that list. And then once we have the kickoff, then we'll start reaching out to people once we know exactly what will be expected. If any, we will need at least one planning commission member. So if anyone would like to be on that steering committee, just send me an email or call me or get a hold of me somehow.
All right, we ready for House Bill 805?
Yes.
All right.
So, per your request, I did reach out to my contact at the Maryland Cannabis Administration to get some clarification on a few items. So the first item that I wanted to let you know about is relating to the on-site consumption. There was a question raised at last month's meeting about whether we are to treat this type of use as the same as we would treat a restaurant with on-site alcohol consumption. The answer to that is no. We are to only treat them as we would treat a liquor store that has completely packaged, contained, and carry out only. So I think that was the biggest point of clarification that we needed.
And that sounded like he gave you the exact opposite answer that you had last month.
That's,
That's
so I will
what I
be
remember.
honest in saying that there is, the guidance from the state is not very developed. We did reach out to MVP and the Planning Commissioners Association. Both entities said that they do not, how did they word it? They said that they're not able to provide on-demand guidance on this subject. And they offered a meeting, and I said, yes, we would love to have a meeting, and that has not been scheduled yet. I'm kind of getting the impression that they're not quite sure.
I can't recall in 25 years of doing this where a House bill has dictated zoning regulations.
Yeah,
To me,
so,
this is the first.
it just says, and this is directly from the email that I received from the MCA. The MCA allows jurisdictions to decide their own zoning ordinances as it relates to cannabis businesses and provides broad zoning rules, which is what?
They basically tell you what your zoning is.
Yeah.
What it is.
Yeah,
So,
Well, the major emphasis seemed to me that they were trying to avoid discrimination.
yes, yeah. And
In terms of what the real zoning standards are, they don't have those.
yeah, and she gave me a couple links to specific paragraphs within the legislation and just said we should hopefully be providing some sort of local government guidance document in the coming weeks. Mind you, this was almost a month ago. My suggestion would be to use the documents I provided above as your guiding light. So that is the official guidance I have received from the Cannabis Administration.
Well, I think the argument that set most of us off was the fact that, okay, they said that a dealer was a dealer, and this dealership was no different than an alcohol dealership, and that we had special exceptions for restaurants in areas of the city. We didn't,
Right,
yeah,
right.
Yeah.
that serve alcohol, but we really didn't want the,
Yeah, because our ordinance doesn't really separate sales versus on-site consumption like that to that specific.
Right.
So that we usually defer that to the alcohol licensing board, which is a local board. Will there be a local board set up with the cannabis that's going to?
That's a good question.
All going to be state driven.
My guess is probably not for a long time, if at all. So Jamie has done a lot of mapping work on this, and I think that when you see what he's prepared, the answers are going to be pretty obvious to everyone.
okay.
So, we do have public comment related to this. At what point would you like me to read this into the record?
Let's look at
No.
the maps first, so we have a
Okay.
understanding of what we think we're looking at.
Okay, I'm just gonna turn the lights down so that we can get a good view of the map here. Okay.
Thank you, that helps.
Yeah.
So it's a little difficult to see with the aerial imagery. If I turn it off, you can see these are all of the parcels in the city. I can leave those off for now, just to make it a little easier to see. First thing I'll pull up, so here we have our zoning map as it currently is. Turn on, these are all of the residential zones. If you remember from last month, there was a provision in the House bill that said 100-foot buffer around any residential zone, to prevent cannabis dispensaries within, or near the residential zones. And then as far as liquor stores are concerned, the only district that allows them, and that is by special exception, is the C2 district. I can turn that on. So it is any of these pink colored, oh, I don't know why I decided I wanted to throw that back on. But any of the pink colored areas are the C2 zone. So that's where liquor stores are permitted by special exception. So what I did, I went through a list of all of the various uses, land uses, that they said should be buffered. So there were the residential zones, primary and secondary schools, any public parks, any child care centers, places of worship. Those were the items or the land use types that it wanted to buffer.
What about the library?
Oh yeah, the library is, actually, I forgot to include that, but I don't think it will matter when you see here in a second.
Yeah. This is what I was worried about. I mean,
Yeah.
by this, we won't even be able to put it in. We won't be able to have one except for far reaches.
So zoom back out. Okay, so once I start turning the buffers on, so that's the school buffers, those would be 500 feet around any of the schools, public parks, child care centers, places of worship. And then there were a couple facilities that are right outside of city limits, like the God's Ark of Safety and Hoffman, as well as, even though it's technically in city limits, it didn't show it, the gun range. So I included those as well. And then once you turn on the residential buffer, it looks like
It
that.
looks like 36.
I was gonna say, yeah, 36 is it.
Yeah, so, once you do the intersection of where the C2 district is and where the buffers aren't, turn the buffers off, just so you can see. So based on our current zoning and what House Bill 805 suggests, these would be the only places in the city that would allow a cannabis dispensary. So if you look on the north end of town, just the way the buffers run, it cuts through.
Could you turn on the landscape?
Oh,
That
like
gives a better-
the aerial
Yes.
image?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, so maybe,
thank you.
yeah, you can see.
Yeah, that would give a better
Yeah,
reference
maybe,
point.
yeah, you'll be able to see what's, there's Frost Elementary and Glendenning.
So that is half of the water treatment plant parcel, which is city owned.
Oh, how handy.
The,
New uses, new uses. It's a drive-through.
the Frostburg Freeze,
Yeah.
Motel?
Yes, Charlie's Motel,
yeah.
Lash Ball's West. So one thing that we would ask that you consider is, could you,
Whoops,
I'm sorry,
whoops,
could you
there
go
was
back?
something else
Oh,
back
yeah,
there.
yeah.
What was on Main Street?
Sorry,
What's on
Right.
Main Street?
Yeah, right there.
there's, that's, is it Harvey's, the
Harvey's
fire
Works.
department.
Okay.
Yep.
The gas
Almost
station.
got
and
my
the gas
ass.
station.
I thought I was looking for a cash cow.
Yeah, so that's where that is.
Really?
Could you zoom into that other location on Main Street?
This
It's
one.
more central, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so, with last month's discussion in mind, we'd like to draw your attention that one particular location in town that was brought up at last month's meeting, the structure itself that is pre-existing falls outside of any of those buffer zones. So, what I would like for you all to consider is if there are segments of parcels that are located outside of the buffer zone, is there a percentage that you would like to stipulate?
So that's the rental?
Pardon?
Yeah.
That's the rental lot?
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, boy.
And then that's part of the corner market as well. It's kind of the back side of that, and then that purple house that's beside that. So, when we were looking over this, that was something that really jumped out at me.
What a
So,
coincidence.
right? I know, I couldn't believe that.
But that's not within 100 feet of any residence, and at that point,
Yeah, the portion in pink is not within 100 feet of any residence.
you just have to tear all, well,
The parcels are, but the actual structure itself,
Right.
and that's what the law says, the structure is.
Structure, right?
Okay.
Somebody,
I don't know that the,
This says the licensed dispensary, you know?
yeah, it doesn't say,
It doesn't differentiate between
can we get,
structure or the site or.
yeah.
can you guys reach out and get a definition of what the dispensary means?
Yeah.
Does it mean the lot or does it mean the physical structure?
Right,
Because I think without that, we can't make an informed decision.
absolutely.
And I'm gonna throw this out for discussion. I mean, I look at this as, obviously the legislature's trying to do something here, and we're trying to live within it, and my view is we don't make any changes from this is my opinion, because I'm afraid it's gonna change the next legislature. I think they're gonna come back and try to fix some of these, because we're not the only people trying to live with this. And every zoning board in the state's gonna be trying to figure this out. So I mean, that's my thought process is, if we have to accept something, we accept it for word with whatever that definition is, and that's how we would move forward. And I'm just throwing it out there for discussion.
And to tag on to that also, along with this comprehensive planning process, we will be doing very likely some extensive updates to our zoning ordinance. So that's something to keep in mind as well.
When do we have to adopt this?
We have to have something in place. I mean, this law goes into effect July 1. So I'm not exactly 100% sure when the jurisdiction, give me just 1 second, it might say in here. When the
It's
jurisdiction,
non-typical for the stuff that will lag behind 3 or 4 years from when laws in place to when local laws catch up.
right,
The reason why I'm asking is it would make a lot more sense to do this once the comp plan's redone and any recommendations for zoning is brought in. Because then you could rewrite the zoning to accommodate House Bill and anything else that we need to do. And then you could differentiate between, does the whole lot need to be out? Or does it just need to be the building, or does it need to be the place of sale within the building?
right.
Because, I mean, you think about it, you look at Ames, or the Ames Shopping Center, right? Half of that building was in pink, right?
It's very elegant.
Yeah.
Right.
So if the dispensary is the building, that whole thing is one building. It's all connected. They share services. Even though each of them have different addresses, it's still one building. And the fire marshal looks at it that way. That's why you have to have firewalls and everything else and interconnected systems. So does that mean with part of the building in, part of the building out, that you can't put a dispensary up there?
Right. Right.
Well, I guess,
Good
the side that's, not in the zoning is closer to the school, right? So that's what would put it,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's the side that already has permit for a drive-through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
There's an
Because the
existing,
intent was to actually come through with a pharmacy there and then never
At
did
one time, yeah.
come through, right? It's not a golf range, I think. golf simulator.
Jamie, could you move that up just a skosh there? No, the other way. Yeah, are those not houses?
They are, the way it is stated in the House bill, I believe it's stated from residential zones or residential.
Okay.
It's not just from a residence.
Okay.
Yeah, there are apartments there, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
But they're
But
within the
it's
C2
C2.
zone. so
Yeah.
That's why it wasn't excluded.
And that makes sense, because if you have mixed zones, how would you filter that out? City's not had any requests yet, formally, anything for someone wanting to establish.
No formal requests at this time. You know, what we heard last month, that kind of, I mean, we kind of knew that was, there were whispers. But no, we have not received any formal applications. We're just trying to be prepared for how to handle this when it inevitably comes across our desk. Regardless of whether or not we have regulations in place, like we need to know how to handle these in the meantime too, so.
All that we have here anyway, it would still have to be a special exception before.
That's correct.
Yeah. As I recall, there was some other discussion about other restrictions about parking lots and other things in that zone, on that lot. You have a parking lot there right now, it's on the corner of Grant and Main Street, and that's been vacant for long enough now that there's no grandfathering left on that, is there?
I think that's what was decided. Well, at least that's what you told us. And then, yeah, if they want to come in for a parking lot in, they would need to have the proper buffer. Basically, you can't put a parking lot on Main Street anymore because of the setback.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was reading where they want to buy additional lots too, that was for parking, but, I mean,
The lady that was here last month indicated that they were gonna tear down what used to be the corner market, and that house is condemned, it's next to it.
All the way up to Progressive.
okay.
And then they wanted to use that as the parking lot, correct? And then they were gonna use the other building, as the dispensary.
You know, I don't think that's
Which
quite the
building were
way
they
she
gonna use
presented it. She said the owner of the building for Rehab First
Yeah.
wanted to use that site. Didn't say that she was that they were gonna use the Rehab First building itself, but,
No,
Huh?
I don't think so.
yeah,
But
that would.
she wants to sell them her business,
Right.
her site.
Yes, and it sounded like they were trying to acquire the old
Corner market. too.
basically, so they would have the entire both all the parcels between Grant and Mount Vernon.
Yeah. Incidentally, there's a public right of way.
Yes, there is a public right of way. Right
Yeah, so
now.
they would have to request to close the alley.
Yeah,
That's not gonna happen. Sewers run down through there.
and I mean, everything that Ms. Wilson stated last month, that was all news to me. That was the first I had heard any of, most of that. So, you know, it kind of got my wheels turning. I mean, there are so many things that would have to happen in order for that to be viable before the project would even make it here for a site plan review. So, you know, I don't really know how to take her public comment.
Yeah.
So,
I think you take its shoes in support of the cannabis
Yeah.
legislation and
yeah,
did not want us to increase the distances, because we have, if I read this right, HB 805 allows us to increase distances there are some exceptions where we can only go up to a half mile, I think, for distance in between.
I thought it was the opposite.
No, it's the
We
opposite.
can decrease.
Oh,
We can decrease, but we
We
cannot
can't
increase.
increase.
So it's 100 feet. Now, we could make it 0 if we wanted to.
Yeah.
But we cannot increase it past 100 feet. So
Okay.
Brian asked that we maintain
The 100 feet,
the
that's
100
right.
feet buffer.
The increase referred to the distance between
That's right, just
dispensaries.
between the two.
Yeah.
Yes.
Out of curiosity, can you throw a circle on that lot and do a 1,000-foot radius?
1,000 foot, which lot, because there's a couple.
Just pick the center.
yeah.
This one?
Yeah, that works right there.
Okay.
Do a 1,000-foot circle on it.
Second here. Got so many layers here.
Why is that?
Is that's they're calling for, yeah.
Where the next,
Where the next one could be if we,
1,000 feet
I
away
was
from
wondering where
another
you're going.
dispensary.
yeah.
I just kind of want to see what that precludes.
Oh,
That is one we might want to consider, just because of the limited number of spaces we have. We may want to consider dropping that down distance-wise.
Okay.
So that's 1,000 feet.
Okay, yeah, so it's okay, it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, there aren't any.
I wasn't sure if it would preclude the other one there.
yeah, you can get the one next
On
to
Main
your
Street,
house there,
yeah.
Ray, if you want. Looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only actually other allowable area that it intersects with is just barely. Building down by Langley's.
That's interesting. That's real interesting. So are we looking for like a motion or anything like this, or I think we should kind of table this until we get the information that you were looking for?
Yeah.
At least get something official from planning,
Yeah,
because right now the state doesn't know how to handle this.
it does not appear that way.
And again, I think the big, and that's a very, very big question about, is it the lot or is it the building?
Yes.
So it does make a huge difference. Coincidentally, if it is a lot, there's probably only 2 lots in Frostburg, or 3 lots in
Yeah,
Frostburg,
but
we can do that.
But then you'll have work because everyone will be cutting lots
Yeah.
just to fit into the program. Well, I guess while we're asking about the same thing as Ray brought up, do question about multi-tenant structures where part of a structure is allowable, but the other part of the structure is not.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'll make a motion to table this.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded, we table this discussion. Any other comments?
Oh,
Oh,
I do have some public comment to read into the room.
yes,
okay,
I withdraw the motion.
temporarily.
I withdraw it.
All right, this was received on Tuesday, June 11th at 3:05 PM from Brian Alderton. He is in residence at 6 South Mount Vernon Street here in Frostburg. I wanted to address the Planning Commission briefly as they analyze and discuss House Bill 805 and its impact on the Frostburg zoning ordinance. While I am aware that what the Commission is doing now is not site or project specific, the comments from Diana Wilson at the meeting on 5/8/24 makes what you are currently working on extremely relevant to me. As you are aware, my house is located at 6 South Mount Vernon Street and is located in an R2 zone district, approximately 50 feet across the street, and he did send a photo from the property Ms. Wilson owns at 227 East Main Street, which is located in a C2 district. I ask that the commission keep in mind homes like mine when formulating new policy as it pertains to cannabis dispensaries within city limits. As you discussed on May 8th, the smell that often accompanies a dispensary can be an issue, especially if the facility is adjacent to a residential district. As I've walked by the several dispensaries in Cumberland doing some research, I am concerned at what potentially could happen to my neighborhood and its quality of life should a dispensary locate in the 227 East Main Street property. I ask that the Planning Commission take a serious look at page 5, line 17 of House Bill 805, which states that the city by ordinance may establish a distance limitation for dispensaries of up to 100 feet from an area zoned for residential use. I know that during discussions on May 8th, it was opined that such an ordinance would preclude a dispensary from operating anywhere in the city because there are apartments in most buildings, even in the C3 Town Center District. After reading the aforementioned lines from the House bill, I think this interpretation is not quite right. Line 17 allows for limits of 100 feet from an area zoned for residential use. Obviously, apartments in the middle of town wouldn't fall under this as they are located in a district zone for commercial use. Thus, I believe House Bill 805 establishes that the city would be permitted to implement a 100-foot limitation from zones specifically zoned for residential use. And that would be R1, R2, R2A, and R3. As I believe 100 feet is reasonable, and obviously the state thinks so too, or they would not have placed it in the bill, I hope that the Planning Commission will consider this option as they proceed. I thank you for your time and appreciate the work that you do to make Frostburg a great place to live. Best regards, Brian Alderton, 6 South Mount Vernon Street, Frostburg.
Well, it definitely falls under, is it, 100 feet to the lot or the building?
Makes a difference. Makes a
It
huge
does.
difference.
Okay.
So I will get clarification on those points. The use or the structure is what they're referring to, and I will also ask that question about multi-tenant structures located in commercially zoned districts.
Is that the only other communications you have?
This email is the only communication that I
Okay.
have. Yep.
So now we're back to.
I'll make the motion, we table this till next meeting, or until, instead of next meeting, until you receive the information that was requested.
Second?
We moved and second, we table this item. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Hey, excellent job on the map.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's very helpful.
Yeah, that was helpful.
I was sitting there and thinking, man,
No
some of the
pre-
things that I had to do in my career.
Hey, no pressure, Christian Ray asking you just to throw a 100,000-foot circle up there, because things never work the way they're supposed to.
Thankfully, it worked.
If he set that map up, I knew we could put a circle up. There was no doubt in my mind on that one. There are days when GIS, when ArcGIS does not want to cooperate at all.
That is correct.
I use OpenGIS. It's the same way.
Doing a maneuvering board at 2 o'clock in the morning
Yeah.
to see if you're gonna collide or not, and see you can be.
No.
Not
Yeah,
yet.
I think so,
no,
I was wondering.
no. Did you have any
I saw
other-
it pop up there.
That was all we had for you this
I
evening.
said-
Okay.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second?
So Conrad, you tell us the story about maneuvering boards.
It's been moved and seconded, we adjourn the meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?